And welcome to St Martin's Church, right here in the centre of Liskeard. Welcome to Meet the Funders, a partnership between Transformation Cornwall and the Diocese of Truro. It's sponsored this year very kindly, and thank you very much to the Benefact Trust. Thank you very much, wherever you are, for joining us. And I know that we're here, you're there on Zoom right across Cornwall and beyond. We have over 93 people joining us today and tomorrow for this event. We're in our 10th year and we're very grateful for you to take a little bit of time out of your day to join us here, because great things can happen when we work in partnership together. We've seen, haven't we, over the last 2 or more years, the devastating effects of the pandemic and how the community has really stepped up to fill some of the devastating vacuum and holes in our support networks. We really can and do make a huge difference. And I know that today and tomorrow will make a huge difference to so many more people across our beautiful county as well. So I just hope that we can all take the opportunity to forge new networks and new links with new friends, new brothers and sisters who we can work together and literally change lives, which is wonderful. I mentioned St Martin's Church in Liskeard. It's very beautiful. It's a very gloomy day outside, but very beautiful inside. You can probably see the light. I'm not sure you can see just beside me here some beautiful mosaics and embroideries, which are part of an exhibition from the community and displayed for a short time here at St Martin's Church in Liskeard. Behind me and alongside the beautiful stained glass windows as well, a testimony to the love of Christ, to the love of the church, to the love of the community. And this church really has been at the heart of the community for nearly 1,000 years. It is older than the 14th century. Does that make it 13th century, 12th century? I'm not sure, but it's very old. It's had a place in the community, and our faith-based social action has a real place in the community now. Does it matter if people don't realise that the community support networks, the food banks, the community hubs, the collectives, the credit unions, does it matter if people don't know that actually underpinning them is the word of God, is the word of the church and faith-based social action? I'm not sure, because right at the heart of it is love, and what we do for each other through the love of Christ is so important and is making such a huge difference. So thank you so much for being with us today, and I hope that you get what you really do need from this opportunity to make a difference in your community. Whatever sort of project or organisation you want, or action project you want some help with, we have so many wonderful organisations who have signed up to help you, and you'll be hearing from some of them today and tomorrow as well. We have over 8 funders who will be giving presentations today and tomorrow as well. And tomorrow the day will be presented by the Bishop of St Germans, the Right Reverend Hugh Nelson as well. So do feel free to join us on both days as well, if you possibly can. Over the last 10 years, Transformation Cornwall and Meet the Funders has supported, goodness, so many projects. But over the last 12 months, just over the last 12 months, we've engaged with something like 182 projects right across Cornwall, so making a real difference. And as I say, this is our chance all together to make a difference in an even bigger way. I'm really pleased as well that this marks the new chapter of Transformation Cornwall. We have, following in the wonderful steps of Jane Yeomans, we have a brand new project manager. She's a wonderful lady called Anne Redling Hayes, and I'd like to just introduce Anne, who's running down the side of the church now, to say hello. Anne, this is Anne Redling Hayes, and Anne has done so much in just a few weeks to create this project as well. And I know we're entering a new chapter for Transformation Cornwall, building on wonderful work of the past.
Thank you so much, Donna. What a privilege to join all of you here today and tomorrow, and we're looking forward to what the future holds, how we can create together with the social action, flourishing communities here in Cornwall. Over to you, Donna.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, definitely exciting times. But wherever you are as well, I hope you are able to spend the next few hours with us together. It's always very strange, isn't it? You know, engaging together via Zoom, but it works to a certain extent as well. And as well, if you're at home, you get the chance to put the kettle on and have a cup of tea. And I must just say, if you've got your pack nearby, you will have Cornish tea bags. And thank you very much to Smuggler's Brew for supplying all these Cornish tea bags. And they really are just so lovely. So I hope you're enjoying a bit of a cup of tea as well this morning with us. So in a moment, I'm going to just invite Rebecca Evans, who is Ministry and Parish Development Officer at the Diocese of Truro, to give us some housekeeping advice. So Rebecca, would you like to come up, please? Thank you.
Okay, good morning everybody. I'm afraid there is still the obligatory housekeeping despite it being on Zoom. We're obviously not going to cater for fire alarms and things like that, but just so that you're aware, you are on a Zoom call and therefore you're unable to unmute yourselves today. So if you have any questions, please just pop them in the chat. The event is being recorded. You should have had a little pop-up that says that. So throughout the day, if you have any questions, put them into the chat and we'll try and pick those questions up and pass them on to the funders and the people that they're relevant to as well. Please do as well feel free to put your name and the project you're from in the chat, just as we're starting off, because that would be a good opportunity for people to see who's here and perhaps to engage with people during the breaks and things. It would be really helpful for us if you could rename yourselves on Zoom if you're not already with your first and second name on there, just because when it comes to the workshops, we need to allocate you to the right rooms. And that's quite difficult if it says user number something or other or somebody else's iPad. We will have a screen break at about 11:30 and within your packs you should have a little booklet which has got the agenda for the day and will tell you when lunch is and things like that. So most of all, we hope that you enjoy the day, and it's just fantastic to be here celebrating the 10-year anniversary. It feels like the whole project has changed so much in those 10 years, but it's been a great partnership between Transformation Cornwall and the Diocese of Truro. So to start our day, Donna is going to lead us in prayer.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. Let's pray. Dear Lord, as we join together at the beginning of this new day, thank you for the opportunity of bringing us here, of the technology which allows us to meet together wherever we are. We ask for your blessing on all that we do. And we ask that the new networks and the new people that we meet and the advice and the support that we are shown helps others to find more fulfillment and growth in their lives. We ask for your blessing upon our communities and the work that our faith-based social action does to enrich and to help those who are struggling most in our communities. At this time, dear Lord, I would like you to comfort and heal all those who are suffering bereavement. I'm thinking particularly of the terrible news this morning that we have woken to of the shooting in the United States. I ask that you wrap your arms around the people who have lost their children and their loved ones. May you comfort and heal them and be alongside them in that hour of need and that hour of darkness. Let's just take a moment to think about that. Dear Lord, we know that when we are with you, the power of the Holy Spirit enriches us, brings us comfort and healing. Let us trust in your power to heal and be alongside us in our hour of need. Dear Lord, thank you for the blessing of this event. Thank you for everybody who has worked very hard to make it happen. Thank you also for giving us the technology to enable it to happen. I ask and pray that all that we do today is done in your name to help the people who need your help the most. Dear Lord, I also pray for all those seeking refuge and sanctuary, thinking particularly for people struggling and suffering in Ukraine and other areas of conflict, and for those who are being persecuted around the world. We ask for your peace and for your loving powers of sanctuary. We ask all of these things in your ever-loving, gracious, holy name. Amen. Thank you very much. Right, now on a slightly different note, I don't know whether you've got something in front of you called a Mentimeter. Our lovely Daniel Roberts, who is doing all of the technicals today, and he's a complete technical whiz. Thank you, Daniel. And also Niall as well, who is with us from St Martin's. Thank you, Niall. They've put together something called a Mentimeter. You might have it in front of you. And it asks, what are you feeling ahead of the Meet the Funders Spring event? So I think you're supposed to tap in your emotions. So do you feel excited, challenged, a little bit apprehensive, maybe a bit cautious, but really inspired and really looking forward to making new networks and new friends and new support groups as well. So what I can see on my screens above so far, I hope that you've got that too. Some of the words coming forward. Curious, yeah, curious. What is in store for us all today? Interested, excited, hopeful. What else? Now, I knew I needed my glasses, to be very honest with you, because the words get a little bit small. But I can see apprehensive. Thank you, Daniel. He's made them a lot bigger. Thank you, Daniel. Hopeful, hopeful. Got to have hope, haven't you? And yeah, we can be really hopeful today because great things will happen. Enthusiastic, uncertain, busy, invigorated, nervous. Yeah, you know, but we're all alongside each other, aren't we? We're all together in this. Motivated, thankful. Yes, thankful. Intrigued as well. Receptive, understanding. Thank you. Busy. So yeah, so as I say, put the kettle on quickly, keep your computer screen on. If you're really, really busy, just have your cup of tea as well. What else is there now? Lots of hopefuls there. Zoom weary. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I do know the feeling. Zoom weary, but don't worry, hold on, because it will be worth it, I promise. And you know, in another year or so, we might be able to meet in person, which would be great, wouldn't it? Uncertain, tired, yeah. It's a bit of a grim old day out there, isn't it? But it's okay because we've got the light here and the light of the hope, which will ensure that we can do great things. Nervous, ready, curious, interested, exciting, and tired as well. So do keep tapping in as we go throughout the day. Are your feelings going to change? And we'll probably report back at the end of the day to see, you know, what you feel. Have your emotions changed? If you were very tired, are you now really feeling energized and inspired by what you've heard? Which will be fantastic. So thank you very much. Now, I think I really should say something about sustainability, because sustainability is the theme of today. And if you've got one of these packs, most of you should have received a pack, which is very informative, actually, and it gives you a real idea of what's happening today and tomorrow. But the focus of this event is sustainability. It's a word, isn't it? It's a word like the environment. We bandy it about. We talk about it. It's always there in our conversation. But what does it actually mean? And how do we live a sustainable life? We all know that we need to care for our environment. Just yesterday, on a bit of a side note, I'm a great fan of sweet peas, and every year I try to grow sweet peas. Some years better than others. I grow them from seedlings, but they need a lot of nurturing. a lot of watering, a lot of tying in and repotting, and a lot of slug care as well. Slug prevention, I should say. So yeah, yesterday I was out and I thought I need to tie up my sweet peas, and they were flopping around all over the place, half of them eaten by slugs. But actually, as I was tying them up, and it takes a while, you realise that when you nurture something, we all benefit. I suddenly had this great sense of well-being, and then I got some water and I put it in there, and I really felt connected to those little plants. And I realised that we just need to spend more time looking at the wonderful nature around us, the wonderful environment around us, because when we nurture something, we also are nurtured back, and it really improves and enhances our own well-being. And that is the same for something which is sustainable. When you start something, and I'm actually a great one for starting a project and being really inspired by something and then moving off, and I never do it again. Like starting an exercise class or something like that, I'll go once or twice. Oh, it's great, it's going to change my life. Never go back to it. But actually, when you do stick at something, when you do make something which is sustainable, everybody benefits. And it's like that old thing where the more you give out, actually, it helps you more than you give out, because it really enriches your whole sense of well-being. And I feel that that is the heart of something that's sustainable. And if we can try to create our projects which sustain, they sustain in longevity, but they sustain people, they nourish people, they nurture people. There was a recent report about care provision and how something like £2.6 billion really needs to be put into children's care provision, really from a young age, to help prevent people going into children's homes or foster care. If we can do that, if we can nurture people from a young age, people in communities who are struggling, and make that care sustainable, then that is going to enrich a life, it's going to enrich a community. So many of our wonderful food banks thrive because, and we don't want them to thrive, obviously, but actually they're able to operate because people who have benefited in the past from food, from a food bank, are so grateful, they've been so nourished, literally, by the care and the support and the understanding and people listening to them, that when they're able to, so many people say, I want to go back, I want to go back, I want to go and volunteer. And it's a really powerful thing. To me, that is what being sustainable is about. If we start very small, it's like the mustard seed, isn't it? It's all there in the parables, it's all there in the Bible. But if we start very small, like an acorn as well, if we nurture it, it will grow, it will flourish, and it will sustain. It will sustain lives, it will sustain communities as well. And I really feel passionate about Meet the Funders, because it's all about making those small connections to start with, finding out where you can get the funding, where you can find support, just the first conversation with somebody which can really lead to the flourishing of a great tree, a great sustainable network of faith-based social action which will transform communities. It's there on the tin, isn't it? Transformation Cornwall. And Cornwall is such a pioneering place that, everything starts in Cornwall, and we transform. Communities are transformed through love, through nurturing, and through sustainability. So that's what I understand about it. You may think about it slightly different, but do engage in the conversation with us. I know that you know how to do that via Zoom. I'm sure Daniel's put all the links up there for us today. But enough of my wittering. Let's get on with the wonderful work of the day. And I'm really pleased to say that we have so many different presentations today, among them the Benefact Trust. We'll be hearing from them in a moment or two. I'm slightly ahead of time, so I'm hoping I just need to get the nod from Daniel that, yep, I can see on our screen there, which is absolutely brilliant. We have the Benefact Trust today coming up, and then in around about half an hour or so, Cornwall Community Foundation. We have the Joseph Rank Trust. Then at 11:30, we have a break. Then the National Lottery Community Fund. Then we have some breakout workshops, and I know sometimes when I see that breakout workshops, I think, oh no, can I go and get a cup of tea then? But these are really, really good because they are really your opportunity to really make those connections and to really get some valuable, invaluable support there. So there we are, and we're aiming to finish around about 1 o'clock today. So that is fantastic. So now I would like to hand over to the Benefact Trust. It used to be All Churches Trust, but now it's the Benefact Trust. So thank you very much. Enough of me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good morning. It's really good to be able to join you. I'm Paul Playford, one of the grants officers for the Benefact Trust. As Donna's just said, you probably won't be familiar with Benefact Trust because we've only had that name about 2 months. Prior to that, and for the last 50 years, we've been we've been All Churches Trust. I'm relying on Daniel this morning to run my slides for me. So perhaps I could have the first slide, please, Daniel. Right. Okay. Can you move on to the next one, please? Thank you very much. So yes, as I say, Benefact Trust, formerly All Churches Trust, it's very much about making a positive difference through the people and the organisations that it supports. We've been around for 50 years, so we know a little bit about grant making. And you might ask, well, you know, why have you recently changed your name? Well, there are a number of reasons why we've changed to the Benefact, to being called the Benefact Trust. But one of them is that there was a misconception that we just gave grants to churches, which has never been the case. Churches obviously form a large part of our beneficiary group, but we actually fund a large number of Christian charities as well. So we felt Benefact, which I'm told means doing good or to do good, was more appropriate. So we are now the Benefact Trust, and we own the Benefact Group, which was formerly Ecclesiastical Insurance Group, but I'll say a little bit more about that in due course. Can I have the next slide, please, Daniel? As I say, we've been around for 50 years. This is actually our 50th anniversary year. So we're excited about that, and the fact that we've given so much. As the slide says, over the last 50 years, we've given over 235 million away in grants and 100 million just in the past 5 years. As I say, our beneficiary base is very much about churches and Christian charities, but enabling them to support and address the issues that are so prevalent in our society today, and there are just a few of them listed there. Essentially, our mission is to equip and empower Christian organisations to have a positive and transformative impact on lives and communities. Can I have the next slide, please, Daniel? And here are just some of our grants programs. We have a number of different grants programs. I won't run through them all because of time, but just to highlight a couple. If you're looking for a grant for sort of general repairs, maintenance, building work, that sort of thing, then the chances are it's going to be the general grants program that you would apply to. We have a dedicated grants program to help churches install roof alarms. Some of you may have been the victims of lead theft, which we know through our associations with Ecclesiastical Insurance has been a huge challenge for churches over recent years. And we're told one of the best ways of combating lead theft is to actually install an alarm. So we have a dedicated roof alarm grants program. We have a number of thematic programs. You'll see reference to those on the right hand side of the screen. And those are basically where we've taken a theme and built a grants program around it. And one of our recent thematic grants programs was a program called Hope Beyond, which was really set up to address the challenges coming out of the pandemic when COVID hit in early 2020. we were sort of inundated, as I'm sure a lot of funders were, with requests for grant funding because funding streams were drying up. And our trustees had to make a difficult decision. Do we sort of respond to all of these requests, or do we do something slightly more strategic? So they did both. They actually gave a number of large grants to organisations in the front line of offering support, Trussell Trust, Transforming Lives for Good, a couple of examples there. But they wanted to do something which had a longer lasting impact. So after a lot of research with our beneficiary base as to what the challenges were, we set up our Hope Beyond grants programme, which was to support churches and Christian organisations through, as they responded to the challenges of the pandemic. That programme has closed now, but we've just in the last month launched our subsequent grants programme, which is a follow-on in some respects to the Hope Beyond programme, and it's called Brighter Lives. One of the key themes that was coming up through grant applications to Hope Beyond was that of churches and Christian organisations supporting issues around mental health. And so Brighter Lives is very much dedicated to supporting or to helping those organisations and churches make a difference and have a positive impact on issues around mental health. You may be wondering why we've got a dedicated Methodist grants programme. Well, that's simply because Methodist Insurance give us a sum of money each year from their profits, and that is designated for specifically for Methodist projects. So if you're a Methodist church watching this morning, then that may be of interest to you. Okay, Daniel, if I can have the next slide, please. And we can just sort of, this just highlights a few of the many beneficiaries that we've supported. We get about 1,200 applications each year. It's probably fair to say that at least 85–90% of those applications receive something. So you can appreciate that this is just the tip of the iceberg. We've got many more beneficiaries than that, but this just gives you a feel for some of the projects that we've supported. Okay, thanks, Daniel. Next slide, please. I thought it'd be worth just giving you a couple of examples of grants that we've given. This is St Thomas's Church in Swansea, a project that I visited just before the pandemic, in actual fact. And this is one of the most disadvantaged areas in Swansea. And when the vicar arrived 5 years prior to my visit, the church was in need of sort of repair and restoration, and there was some major sort of building works needed just to keep the building in good order. But the congregation was about 20 at that time, and the vicar sort of felt that it was inappropriate to go out with his begging bowl to the community, which had their own struggles. So what he said was that if the community comes to me and says it can't do without the church, then we'll embark upon a fundraising programme. And he left it at that, basically. But what he did was to form various relationships, one of them with the local head of the local primary school. And they started to look at the needs in the area, the challenges, the issues that people were facing. And the church slowly became a hub for the community. They ran debt advice groups there. They ran cookery classes for young people so that they could learn how to cook nutritious and cost-effective meals, skills which they could then take home to their families. They ran groups for victims of substance abuse, parent and toddler groups. A whole host of activities were running in the church, and suddenly it became this thriving hub of the community. And the church basically sort of answered the vicar's question that they couldn't do without the church. And so what the project that we've supported them in is to actually divide the church. They've actually divided it horizontally. They've put a new floor in, so that upstairs they still have a large meeting space for worship and concerts, etc. And then downstairs they've divided it up into various sort of rooms of various sizes. One of them is a commercial kitchen. There are various counselling rooms, a cafe area. So it has literally, as well as being an important place of worship within the community, it is also a hub. And the incredible knock-on effect is that this church is actually seeing spiritual growth as well as just being a resource for the community. I'm told that there are over 80 or 90 people coming to church on a Sunday simply because they came through the doors for support of another sort, but actually they found more than just sort of physical support. They've actually found spiritual support as well. And as I say, the church is actually growing as a result of it. So that's one really inspirational project we supported. If I can have the next slide, please, Daniel. And this is another really inspirational project. This is a charity this time, a Christian charity based in Birmingham, Bethel, UK, working alongside victims of substance abuse, ex-offenders, people who've experienced homelessness. And this is a project that came into us well. We were in lockdown, and I had instead of being able to visit them physically, I had to have the initial meeting online. And I got a sort of feel for what they were doing. And basically, as I say, they support victims of substance abuse, ex-offenders, that sort of thing. But they actually do it by giving them hope. They work through peer support. So it's people who've actually walked the journey that are actually supporting those that are on the journey. And through the various social enterprises that they run, they give these individuals experience and hope for the future. And as I say, I wasn't able to visit the project when they first submitted the application, but we awarded them with a grant. And then I went back last autumn when they opened the centre in Birmingham. And I remember talking to one of the ladies there, a lady called Kerry, who had a life. Basically, she'd been born into parents who were drug users, and sadly she had got on that spiral as well. And I'm conscious that time is running out, so I can't give you her whole story, but basically she'd hit rock bottom, and through a lady just delivering a bag of shopping to her house every week for 2 years, just with no strings attached, and then inviting her to go along to Bethel, she actually found the support she was looking for, and she's sort of found her faith. She's got her life back on track. She's found her husband who's walked a similar journey. She's got children, and she's just flourishing. And the thing that struck me was the sparkle in her eyes when she was telling me her story. And this is an organisation that has enabled her to get back on track. And again, this is another really inspirational project that we've been able to support. Okay, if I can have the next slide, please, Daniel. So as I said earlier, we've got 50 years of experience. So, we know a little bit about grant making, and we, like to share that with beneficiaries and potential beneficiaries, because we know that the whole process of applying for a grant can be quite challenging. We have a grants administrator who's on the phone all day, every working day, and is more than happy to answer questions. We've got a team of grants officers, and we are just here basically to help you get the best application to us, and to make sure that what you're asking for fits with what our trustees are looking for, so we're here. But also, I would just mention, some people say, where do you get your funds from? We get our funds from the fact that we own the Benefat Group, as I say, formerly the Ecclesiastical Insurance Group, which owns ecclesiastical insurance, and their profits are what enables us to do what we do. Okay, next slide, please, Daniel. As I say, conscious of time, I can't sort of go into this in too much detail, but we try to ensure that we have a fairly simple, straightforward application process. We're conscious that we're here for you. Our role is basically to support you in getting the best out of your application and the best possible grant that you can. So we're here for you, and we make our application process as simple, as straightforward as possible. We've also got a resources hub on our website, which provides a wealth of information about how to structure your application, the things to include, the things not to include, advice from the experts in various sort of fields. And it's worth just having a look on our website just to sort of familiarise yourself with our resources hub, because I'm sure you'll find it helpful. Which leads me to the next slide, which gives you our contact details. We'd encourage you to follow us on social media, and that way you can receive up-to-date updates on all that we're doing. Also, sign up for our newsletter. We send out a regular e-newsletter, so if you'd like to receive that, drop us an email, or via our website, or just give us a call on one of the numbers there. And yeah, we'd love to keep in touch. I think my time is almost out now, so I'm going to wrap it up there. And I'm conscious it's been a very whistle-stop tour, and I probably haven't answered all the questions that you wanted to ask. But I'll just end with a quote from our chairman. which says, our aim at Benefact Trust is to equip and empower Christian organisations to have a positive and transformative impact on lives and communities. Giving is at the heart of who we are and what we do. And as I say, that's from Tim Carroll, our chairman. Thank you.
Well, Paul, thank you so much, Paul Playford from the Benefact Trust. That was absolutely fantastic. And what an insight. As you say, the Benefact Trust has more than 50 years of experience. So amazing. And I know that you really have, over those 50 years, helped communities to really, really flourish and transform. So thank you so much. And Paul, could you just stay for a moment or two, because we've got a question. And this question comes from the Christian founder director of Pegasus. And they say, does the organisation have to be a Christian organisation, or could I apply as well for funding?
Yes, that's one of we do only support churches and Christian charities.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's great. Thank you so much, Paul, for that. That's wonderful. And I know there'll be a lot of people who would like to engage with you a little bit later on. So thank you so much for your expertise and for being with us this morning. We really appreciate it. Thank you. Wonderful, thank you. Yeah, and do please keep those questions coming in. Daniel is doing sterling work there, having a look at all the messages coming in on the screen. So we'll get some of those to you as soon as we can. So thank you very much. But I'd just like to bring in Rebecca again from the diocese, because this is something we get asked quite a lot at Transformation Cornwall. Do you have to be a faith-based community project or organisation to apply for funding?
Well, Donna and I were talking earlier and saying that to begin with, we started the Meet the Funders programme because a number of churches hadn't applied for any funding because they thought that the thing that said that we do not fund the pursuance of religion meant that they were not eligible to apply. And so actually that doesn't mean that effectively. It's just about the other things that they can apply for. So the thing that we were really excited about with Meet the Funders was that it actually brought together both faith-based and different faiths and those of no faith to work together, because actually it's bringing all of those different organisations within a community that can really benefit the whole community together. So it's not always the case that you have to be, there are different funders that fund different things, and it's always important to look at the guidelines, but the value of this event is that it's open to everybody.
That's great. Thank you. Rebecca, thank you very much. Open to everybody. So there we are. It really is your chance, whether you're a faith-based group or not, to actually get your questions in and build those networks. Transformation Cornwall is all about building bridges. So if you think, well, I'm not a Christian, or I don't have a faith project, then please do get in touch with us, because we can also put you in touch with relevant people as well. So we're all in it together, basically. Yeah, better together. I love that. It's all about unity. It really is. We are stronger together. I think that was the late Joe Cox MP who said that. Whatever we do, we're better together. And it really is a sign of our times that we look at our communities, and when we see strength in projects, it's because people are working together. So there we are. That's absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed listening to Paul Playford. And we have so many more speakers. In a moment or two, we'll be joined by the Cornwall Community Foundation, which will be fantastic. And it's Colin Taylor who will be joining us in a moment or two. But as I say, please do keep those questions coming in, and also keep entering your data, that sounds a bit posh, doesn't it, into the Mentimeter, thinking about your emotions today as well. Are they going to change as we head on throughout the course of this morning? It's really wonderful to be able to engage with you in that way. Even though it's via Zoom, we still feel a connection there, don't we? Which is absolutely brilliant. Right, so now I'm really pleased to say, it's just popped up on my screen there. Hello, it's Colin Taylor from the Cornwall Community Foundation. And, when we talk about community projects, always in the conversation is the Cornwall Community Foundation. Over the years, they have done so much to transform our wonderful, beautiful community of Cornwall. So it gives me great pleasure to hand over to Colin Taylor from CCF, and he's the grants officer. Good morning, Colin.
Good morning. Thank you for having me today. Yeah, delighted to talk to you about everything going on with Cornwall Community Foundation and the multitude of funding projects we have available. So I do have a presentation available if that one is able to go up. Here it is. Lovely. So yes, I'm from Cornwall Community Foundation. Cornwall Community Foundation are one of, I think, about 50 different community foundations across the UK, and obviously we cover Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly. So if you go to the next slide, please. Like I say, yeah, we're a team of about 12 people. We are a very small organisation, but we do, like I said, cover the whole of Cornwall, Isles of Scilly, and we have lots of different funding projects available. If we go to the next slide, please. So since 2013, since 2003, we have given out £13 million in grants, and that goes to over 6,000 organisations. The year before I joined in 2019, we gave out about £850,000, and we've grown huge amounts since then. If we go to the next slide, please. Last year, we gave out £2.2 million. A lot of our growth has been a result of COVID and COVID-related funding, and I think looking forward into the future, as significant as COVID has been in terms of funding applications for us, I believe the cost of living is going to be as equally important to us. If we go to the next slide, please. So what do we have funding for? That's the question that you're all interested in, and that's what I'm here to talk about. Next slide again, please. So we break down our funds into two different types. We've got funds which benefit individuals, and we've got funds that benefit groups. We have a significant amount more funding applications for groups than we do for individuals, but we do have funds for individuals as well. Some of them are things like our Crisis Fund, our Young and Talented Fund, our Duke of Cornwall Benevolent Fund. The Crisis Fund is something that all your organisations might be interested in. The way that fund works is you apply to us to hold a pot of money, which you then can give out to individuals that you're familiar with. Normally you apply for about £500, and you can award somewhere between £30 to £90, I believe is the average, to individuals that come to you with a crisis. So maybe they come to you and say, I'm struggling to pay my heating bill this week. I'm struggling, I need some money for carpeting for my new property, and I can't move in until I've got the carpeting down. It can be anything like that. You are responsible for deciding who you give the funding to. Once your pot of money's run out, you just email us back and say, can we apply for some more funding, and get a top-up fund. You just tell us who you're giving the money to and how you help benefit them. The group funding, that's the one where we can do a lot more around projects that you're working on. Particularly when it comes to churches, we've done a lot around things like food banks. A lot of churches rent out their halls to mum and toddler groups, for example. We've got a lot of activities like that which you can apply to. If we go next slide again, please. So the way I'd encourage you to apply to us, if you're interested in talking to us about funding, is to go through our One programme, which is on our website. You tell us about yourself and what you're looking for funding for, how much you need, all that kind of stuff. And then, because like I said, we've got about 63 different funds in total, we then go through our funds and try and find the best fund for you. So that could be a regional fund. We have funds that cover the whole of North Cornwall. We have funds that cover just the Lizard area. We have lots of different small pots as well. So it could be just the area around South Pewlin, for example. So like I said, you write to us and say, this is what we're looking for, this is what the funding we're seeking. We then send you an application form. If we can find a suitable fund for you, you then fill in that application form, and you've applied to one of our pots of money. We then do an assessment on it. So we look at the application you put in, and normally we have some questions. How did you come to your figures? How do you know how many people you're going to benefit? How have you decided that this is what is the biggest priority for the people you work with? We then do that assessment, send it off to the panel. The panel look at it and make their decision. The panel are independent of us, so unfortunately, as much as we might like a project, or we might say, we think you've done a good job on your application, it's not up to us to decide, unfortunately. The panels make their own decision. Once the panel decision comes back to us, we then inform you if you've been successful or unsuccessful. And if you've been successful, you can carry on with your project. If we go next slide again, please. So how to apply for grants. So like I was talking about, that you want to go through that expression of interest form, and then we'll have that discussion about where we think you're best suited, send you an application form, and then you go from there. So sorry, if we go next slide again, please. So what place we'll ask you to go to find that expression of interest form is on our website. That is cornwallcommunityfoundation.com. On there, there's a link at the top that says grants. You click on there and you see this page here. Now, before you put in the expression of interest, the thing we'd always ask you to do is to look at our application guidelines. We do ask for a lot of documentation that comes alongside your application, and we need to make sure you've got that first, because it's a waste of your time to put in the application if you can't provide us with the supporting documentation. And it's also, it takes up our time to have to come back and say, please send us this documentation so that we can consider your application. If we go again, next slide, please. So this is what we're going to ask you for. We're going to ask to see a copy of a governing document. That's going to be a constitution, articles of association, something to that effect, that will tell us about who you are as an organisation, what your objects are, so what you exist to do. And we must also see no dissolution clause. That says that if your organisation winds up, where does that money go? The people that give us funding are very passionate to see that funding stays in Cornwall. So while we hope that you carry out your project and it's a great success, if partway through you decide that you need to wind up as an organisation, we want to know what happens to your assets. So that's why that dissolution clause is so important. We need confirmation that you have at least 3 unrelated members of your management committee. So if you're an unincorporated group, you likely have a committee, which will be your chairman, your treasurer, your secretary, at the very least. You might have other positions as well. We need to just ask that they are unrelated, because we want to make sure that decisions are made independently of, the people that make decisions are independent of each other and they're thinking in the best interest of your organisation. So we just ask for a list of, who's on your management committee, and can you confirm if any of them are related to each other. If you're a registered charity, we'll check that you're up to date on the Charity Commission website. If you are running behind on any reporting, we'd ask that you get up to date before we can consider an application. So there's that one. Safeguarding, that's become a big issue for us recently. We're very passionate to see that you have a suitable safeguarding policy if it's relevant to your project. And safeguarding is often more relevant than you'd expect it to be. So if you're, like I said, if you're running a mum and toddler group, we want to see a safeguarding policy. If you're going to have people, entering your hall or renting it out, we want to see that you've got a safeguarding policy to make sure that, you've got policies and procedures in place if there's a safeguarding issue. And the thing we're very keen to see is that you have a named safeguarding officer within that policy, with their contact details. If your safeguarding policy doesn't have that, then what we need to find out from you is how members are made aware of who to contact in regards of a safeguarding issue. So if you have posters up in your hall that say, in the event of a safeguarding concern, speak to, John Smith, and his phone number is whatever it is, that's fine. We just want to make sure we understand what process you follow if there's a safeguarding concern and how people can raise safeguarding issues. We want to see your annual accounts for your organisation. So they're the ones that get reported at your AGM by the treasurer. And it says that you brought in £10,000 this year and you spent £8,000 and you had £2,000 profit. If you've made a very large, if you've got a large amount of unrestricted reserves, we will question that and challenge that. Why do you have that? It's fine if it's there for a reason, like you're, building up towards some sort of, big project and you need a lot of unrestricted reserves. That's fine. We just need to understand that. But if you've got £2 million in the account and you're asking us for £2,000, we're going to ask, why do you need that £2,000 when you've got so much money left over? We need to see a bank account in the organisation's name, and that needs to be dated within the last 3 months. So we don't need 3 bank statements, we need just one dated within the last 3 months. so that we can check those details if you're successful, so we know that we're making a payment to the right organisation. Very as simple as that, really. We just want to make sure that we're being accurate as possible when awarding funding. If it's relevant, we're going to ask for some insurance policies as well, and we might also ask for things like references or quotes if what you're applying for, and any individual item you're applying for costs more than £1,000. So we always maintain the right to ask for references or quotes if we think it's necessary. If we go to the next slide, please. So there are things that we can't fund. They can be things like commercial organisations, so a private business we can't support. Like I said, if you've got a lot of free reserves for no reason, then we're not going to be able to support you. We can't support public sector organisations, so we can't support parish councils, schools, etc. And the thing I'd really want to highlight here is that we can't support projects where the purpose of the project is to influence someone's religious choices or personal beliefs. So I appreciate a lot of you are churches and therefore you are very passionate about people's religious choices. But if you're running a community project, like I said, a mum and toddler group or a food bank or something similar, where the benefit is for the community and not necessarily to talk about religious choices, then we're more than happy to support that. But we can't fund, religious services, but we can, like I said, things that are community-based, that's fine. The other thing that is also very important is that we can't fund retrospective projects. So if you've already applied and if you've already, bought new chairs for your Sunday school building, but you can't then come to us and apply for funding for it because you've already got that. If we go again, next slide, please. So the thing I often get asked is, what makes for a good grant application? What we're very keen to see is that you've demonstrated the need for the project. So how have you come to the conclusion that this is what you need to do? It's very much telling the story. If it's you've spoken to a lot of mums in the area and they don't have anywhere to go to socialize with other mums, and therefore you decide that you need a mum and toddler group, then that's great. That's what we're looking for. Why have you come to that conclusion? Tell us the why about why that project is important. We want to see that projects represent value for money. So if you're asking us for £10,000 and you're only going to help 4 people, that's a lot of money to spend on very few people. That's not really looking at value for money, and that's unlikely to get funded. We want to see a measurable impact. So tell us how you're going to show that your project has had a benefit. Are you going to do surveys with your beneficiaries who will say, before we had this mum and toddler group, we felt lonely and isolated. Now we can socialize and we're feeling much happier. How are we going to understand what your impact is? I'm also very keen to see that projects are sustainable. So once that funding's run out, what are you going to do? Because Cornwall Community Foundation, we're here at the moment, but there's nothing to say that our funding won't dry up and that we can't fund things in the future. So we need to make sure that what we're funding is going to last beyond the life of the project which you're running. So are you going to charge people to come to your services? Are you going to be looking at other sources of funding as well? Tell us about how this project is going to last, and the benefit is going to go beyond the length of your project which you've applied for. And the other thing that we're very keen to see now is that there's environmental impact and you considered that. So if you're looking at funding, let's say a new car park for your church, why have you chosen tarmac? Why is that, what is the environmental impact on that, and why have you considered that over something like, a gravel car park? If you need a new fence, where are you sourcing the wood from? Is it going to be local? Is it going to be imported from far away? That is just very much one of those questions that we're going to have, particularly when it comes to things that are going to be long life. But we are very passionate about the environmental impact, considering that we are currently in a climate crisis as well. If we go next slide again, please. So there you go. That is Cornwall Community Foundation. That is what we're about. Like I said, if you wish to apply, I'd encourage you to go to our website to fill in an expression of interest and also to read the application guidelines before you do apply. I'll take any questions now which may have popped up.
Thank you so much for that. That was such an informative presentation. Thank you. My goodness, something like £2.2 million since 2019, given out. Incredible stuff. Thank you so much. We've got some questions, actually, if you wouldn't mind.
So I'll just clarify, it was 2.2 million in 2021, actually, we gave out. So that was just last year that we gave out £2.2 million.
Just last year, my goodness me, because I know you said, was it 850,000 in 2019?
That was it, yes.
Yeah, and then 2.2 last year. It gets better and better, doesn't it? So thank you very, very much for that. And so vitally needed right now, all the incredible community work. Thank you. And we've got a question, actually, from Peter in Callington. Good morning, Peter, who says, do you provide feedback on any unsuccessful applications?
We provide any feedback which comes from the panel. So the panel make their decision, and they'll tell us if they like it, what they decided on your project. So if they've said you haven't got enough beneficiaries, we'll pass that information on. A lot of the time our funds are oversubscribed, and it's just an unfortunate case, but the panel decided they like something more, and it's not that your project was bad or wasn't deserving of funding. It was just that they decided something else was. So we may just say that unfortunately you are oversubscribed. If your project can't go to panel because there's an issue with the documentation, or there's an issue with the organisation and why it can't go to the panel, then we'll feed that back before we go to panel.
Yeah, that sounds very fair. Thank you very much, Colin. I hope that answered your question, Peter. You also ask, are all successful grants visible on the website?
No, we don't tend to put that many on our website. We do ask groups who have been successful to, put our logo on, on their website, or, say something on social media so that we can highlight successful groups. But we don't necessarily put all our successful groups on our website.
Okay, thanks, Colin. And Jasmine, hello, Jasmine. Jasmine says, do you have a maximum amount of funding that can be applied for?
It depends on the fund. Some of them, one of our funds does go up to about £20,000, but typically we're a small grant provider, and that normally means we ask for applications between £1,000 to £5,000. So I would say more than likely it's £1,000 to £5,000, unless you are applying to a social enterprise fund, in which case you're a community interest company and you're trying to meet very specific criteria for that. But I'd normally say £5,000 is our usual maximum.
So £5,000, yeah. Brilliant. Thank you very much. Judith, morning Judith at St Sampson's, says, we found ourselves in a catch-22 situation. We want facilities to make the church better for community use, but because we can't demonstrate significant community use at the moment, for example, we don't have a toilet, we've been turned down twice. So do you have any advice as to how they can resolve that?
That does sound difficult. So was that, just some more information. Were you turned down by us or by a different grant provider?
Now that's interesting, because Judith doesn't mention that. Judith, if you've got a minute and you're on the chat at the moment, could you let us know? And that would be great. And then Colin can give you a little bit more tailored advice. So we might come back to that in a second, if that's okay, Colin. Barbara in Stoke Climsland. Hello, Barbara. Barbara says they have the creation of a quiet garden within a churchyard. Can the legal requirements, for example, bank accounts and so on, be our church ones? Can they be ring-fenced?
Yes. So if it depends on who's in charge of the church. So sorry, in charge of the garden. So if the garden if the garden is run by the church, then the church is responsible for it anyway. But if it's for community use, then we're more than happy to have the accounts and all that stuff come from the church. So yes, that sounds fine to me.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Colin. And Judith's just come back, actually. Thanks, Judith. She says, yes, they were turned down by Community Foundation.
That's right.
So, yeah.
I will, Judith, if you're happy to send me an email, my email address is callum.taylor@communityfoundation.com. I'll put it in the chat for you, actually, Judith. I'll chat to you in person about that, but likely if if you don't currently have, if you're currently in that catch-22, we'd probably ask that you get some references for us to say, you know, there are people that would use your building if you had certain facilities in place. So that might be local groups that would want to hire it but can't currently because of the lack of facilities. But if you drop me an email, that might be the best way to discuss this.
Yeah, that sounds really fair, actually, Colin. Thank you very much. So there we are. And I think, Colin, you're going to put your email in the chat box, which is brilliant. You're going to be inundated now, Colin, with emails on you. No, that's brilliant. But that's what it's all about, isn't it? And now I've got my laptop on the screen. I can see everybody, which is really brilliant. So hello, everybody. It's really, really good to see you in person. Hello. Big wave. Come on. Should we just do that? Should we just wave to each other? Yes, here we are. All together as a massive, great big family. Together we can achieve great things with our amazing funders. So thank you. Colin, I'm just having a quick look through the chats to see if any more questions have come in. Our lovely Anne is saying there are. So there are plenty of questions. So here we go. Alice and John, yes, thank you. Alice and John, hello Alison. She says, have you heard more about the next round of household support grants? For example, the government grants to help with the cost of living crisis.
We haven't yet. We're imminently about to launch a cost of living crisis appeal for some funding. I know we've had some money pledged to that already, but until that's officially announced, I won't say much more about that. But we're very keen to start looking at the cost of living crisis, and we are going to have some new funds available for that very soon, hopefully.
That's great. Thank you very much, because thanks for raising that, actually, Alison, as well, and just reflecting it with you, Colin. Cost of living crisis. We are entering a new chapter of poverty. Our whole language around poverty is changing day by day. So we really do need to step up our support, don't we, for people who are seriously struggling, because, you know, certainly in my lifetime, I can't remember a time when, you know, energy bills are rising, food prices are rising, and everybody pretty much struggling. So I think I heard something yesterday that 12 million households in October will be in fuel poverty because of that fuel price cap rising to £2,800 a year. It's happened overnight as well, it seems to me, hasn't it? I know that, you know, it's always been expensive. It's always been difficult to make ends meet. But since January, things are really seriously difficult. So, yeah, thank you for all that you do. Are you finding more people coming to you worried about, you know, the cost of living, Colin?
Yes, it's becoming a more significant issue. I think when the last energy cap price went up so significantly, I think we became very conscious that this was going to be a big issue. So we're trying to speak to funders at the moment to try and get some more funding in. And like I said, I think that's probably going to be our biggest challenge of the next 2 years, as big as COVID has been the 2 years before that.
Sure. Well, Colin, thank you so much to you and everybody at CCF for the incredible work that you do. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you. And there we go. Colin's put his email in there. It is colin.taylor@cornwallfoundation.com. So please do keep all those questions coming as well. Lots about slides. Will the slides be available on our website? Now I've got lovely Anne, and Anne is nodding. She says yes. So if you would like those slides, then yes, the slides will be available on our Transformation Cornwall website after the event, which would be very good, because Margaret, hello Margaret in St Colin, says she would find them a useful resource, which is great. Caroline says the same there. And yeah, Anne says the links for the slides will be on the website and also emailed to all of you who have registered. So that's great. But do please keep the questions coming in that chat box, because we've got loads of other great speakers, which is really good. Is everybody enjoying themselves? Are you finding that you're getting what you need so far from this event? Are you getting some really good advice? Just give a thumbs up or a yes. Brilliant. Thank you very much for that. Okay, let's head on now to our third speaker, which is absolutely brilliant. I'm pleased to welcome Dr. John Hicks, who is the Secretary of the Joseph Rank Trust. Good morning, Dr. John. Thank you ever so much for joining us. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the warm welcome. And I hope that my death by PowerPoint won't send everyone asleep when I get to it. But first of all, I'd like to say a warm welcome to all delegates on behalf of the trustees of the Joseph Rank Trust. And thanks to Transformation Cornwall for inviting us to be here today. I'm sure we'd all rather be sitting in person, munching our pasties, but maybe that's for next year. So yeah, I'm going to put some slides up, or someone's going to put some slides up for me, I hope. Here we go. It's not too much death by PowerPoint, people. So if you want to go and walk the dog, by all means walk the dog, but you'll miss out, I can assure you. But the first thing I'd like to say is endorse the excellent toolkit that hopefully you've all received. And there's two documents particularly in the toolkit I'd like to endorse, which is Exhibit A, which is the funding top tips, written by real people for real people. So that's an excellent document, and it was quite interesting for myself as a funder to read other people's as well. And the second document is the resource document, which contains all those golden nuggets of where all those funders are, what they do, how to contact them, and what the website is. So you don't have to go into some elongated Google search because it's all there for you. So I'm going to say the magic words, not quite yet, but next slide, and hopefully that will kick up the slide. And I'm just going to run through a brief overview of who we are and what we do. I'm reappearing at a workshop at 12:10. So if you want to risk coming to my workshop, I'm going to reappear at 12:10. So you've got the image on your screen, hopefully, of the founder, Joseph Rank, a Wesleyan Methodist born in Hull, created this charity in 1917. Our principal object remains exactly the same as his original vision: to advance the Christian faith and to further the kingdom of God. Next slide, please. You see, even somebody in West Sussex pays respect to the folks down in Cornwall. So, and in fact, tonight I'm going to put my head down in Hale. So I'm sort of going to join you after the event in your county. So next slide, please. So this is a bit about who we are and so on. So Independent Christian Grant Making Trust roughly translates: we're not aligned to any church, body or group. We've got 8 trustees, of which 5 are family members, blood related to the founder, and the other 3 are ministers of religion. So we're not connected to any church, body or group. We do have a Methodist heritage, simply because Joseph Rank was a Methodist, but he could have been a Baptist, or he could have worshipped in the Church of Scotland. So we're an external funder. So think of us, when you're thinking about us, as not a church funder, not a Christian funder. We're like the lottery, we're like Asda, we're like Benefact. We're an external funder, not connected with the church, but very much part of, hopefully, your mission and your vision. We have 12 areas of funding, from asylum seekers to youth workers. They're all on our website. Our web address is in the footer on every slide. So if you have a dull moment this evening, have a look on our website, have a spin around, and you'll go. If you go to a page called Communities Helped, that really tells you what we do. We do capital grants and revenue grants. Capital grants, one-offs. revenue grants, grants for 3 years. We don't do grants for 1 year. We don't do grants for 2 years. We only do revenue grants for 3 years. And our annual spend is in the region of 2.8 million. Next slide, please. Okay, we'll just wait for all the tabs to come up. This I just put up to give you a little feel for our output last year. Methodist grants just short of 400,000, community service, which I'll come back to, and youth projects, and a 2.68 million spend in 2021. What's community service? Community service is really anything. It could be projects for prisoners, for homelessness, for asylum seekers, for community churches, street workers, that sort of project. If you are, for example, and I've seen 1 or 2 names on the attendees list, if you are a food bank, just for example, we don't fund individual food banks. We fund Trussell, the organisation. So within that 2021 commitments was a £200,000 grant to Trussell to assist their individual food banks who had run out of food during COVID. So if you're a micro part of the food bank movement, don't apply to us because we're not going to fund you. We will be funding the the mothership. Next slide, please. Okay, I don't know if I put this in any particular order, but planning your application is really more than a Google search. You know, who funds churches grant maker isn't going to find everybody. You've got an advantage. You've got an advantage because you've got this document in your toolkit. So be a bit more precise. You're looking for national funders like this trust. You know, our parish is the United Kingdom and Ireland. Yesterday I was in Glasgow. Tomorrow I'm in Hale and Truro. So and Friday I'm in East London. So we're everywhere, but not everybody is. So you're looking for a mix, really, aren't you? You're looking for national funders who may support local initiatives. You're looking for those local funders, which you may or may not know. There are a raft of local funders hidden in various places who don't have websites, who have 2 or 3 trustees who've been doing it the same way forever, which is fine. There's also a number of local funders hidden under the doormat of your local town hall. These are old endowed funds to support people in the 16th, 17th and 18th century who in reality the legal branches of local authorities take these funds over and manage them in line with the original objects if they can, but they don't advertise this. So, you know, there's someone in that local town hall who's got all this information on these sort of parish endowed funds to provide hay for the pastor's horse, you know, that sort of thing. You've got landfill. I'm a great fan of landfill. I really, really am. And you know, you're looking for ntrust.org. They're the overarching charity that looks after the environmental land tax organisations. We've had them at Meet the Funders before. I think we had Viridor a few years ago, but it's the people, not only the people who collect your domestic waste, but they could be industrial landfill sites for brick dust and metals and all the rest of it. If they've got a license to occupy that site from the environmental agency, that's your entry point. And someone's just made a very good comment, just come up. Thank you, Judith. I can't see you on the screen because I've been edged. You know, there's only so many people. Yes, Cornwall is remote, but they will have licensed landfill sites. So the answer is give them a ring. They've got a very, very, you know, a group of helpful staff. They've got a very prominent telephone number on their website. Ring them up. Don't just go to the website and rule yourself out. Give them a ring and say, you know, are we within the required distance to a landfill site? Lottery. Now, lottery may be, for people on this conference, evil gambling money, or it could be the church's biggest funder. It really depends what view your trustees take on this. You know, the lottery have, you know, you've got heritage, you've got awards for all, you've got national lottery. If you're thinking you want to tap into the biggest source of funding, you know, it's not hard to find. Now, check the funder's website ×2. I actually said this on Exhibit A. Read the funder's website not once but twice. And any good funder should be approachable thereafter. So have a working knowledge of what you think people are interested in funding. Don't just send them an email to info@. Give them a ring, introduce yourself, start building the relationship on behalf of your church or charity with the person who may or may not be involved in looking after your application. I am the full-time workforce of Joseph Rank, so you would only be telephoning me, but other charities have different people. But please don't send info@ emails as 500 other people do every day. Next slide. Okay, what I think I mean by establish what the funder requires is, you know, what they say on their website. So, you know, if they say send us X, Y, and Z, don't send them A, B, and C. I keep getting books, I keep getting DVDs, I get glosses, I get everything, and we don't ask for that. So, you know, just keep to the brief. If they're asking you for information, provide it. If you're not sure what they mean by it, simply pick up the phone and get them to clarify that. Next slide, please. This is where more grey hair appears on my head. Don't write, please, good folk of Cornwall, do not write, dear sir, madam. Please avoid to whom it may concern. It simply shows the funder you haven't done your homework. You know, in every trust and foundation, there are named individuals employed to look after your applications. They're not hard to find. I have a contact tab on my website. Benefact have lovely pictures of their staff and so on. Dear Sir, Madam instantly shows that, you know, your research and your preparation is poor, to be honest. To whom it may concern. What are you doing? Writing to the local parking authority? No, you're trying to secure charitable funds for your cause. So make it as professional and as businesslike as you can. And again, avoid sending info at emails. It's so poor. Next, please. Do we have a next slide? Oh, sorry, it was on the bottom. Please put enough stamps on the envelope. Don't send the secretary of the Joseph Rank Trust down the post office to pay £1.50 to collect your application. Happens to me every month, quite a few times. Thanks for that, well spotted. So showcase your project. I know we've got a break at 11:30. I'm not going to break into your break. So I'm going to pause in a couple of minutes for questions. So if you don't have a website, ask yourself why not. Every corner shop, every garden centre, every pub has a website. Hosting's as cheap as chips, design is as cheap as chips. People like us want a shop window to look into and see what you're about. I think in 2022, you cannot say we're still getting there. You must have already got there. Please focus on the beneficiaries. I'm sure in many, many trusts, there is a glorious history. There's a wonderful founder with an MBE or a knighthood, or your graveyard is full of inspiring people who have passed away. Don't tell me about that. Tell me about your beneficiaries. Tell me about that group of people that you're trying to add value through your application. That's what we want to hear. So try and see your application through the eyes of the beneficiaries, not through what has been cut and pasted from the PCC annual report, for example. Have clear literature, clear language, expressive photographs, excellent for people like me. YouTube clips, again, cheaper than chips because they're free. Think about the value you can add to your website or to your cause by having someone just talking to camera for 2 or 3 minutes saying, this is who we are, this is what we do, this is why we do it, please would you join us? Next slide, please. Okay, I'm going to skip through these quickly. You know what, the last line of any letter to funders should be, please come and visit us, please come and see us, meet us, and if appropriate, meet our beneficiaries. That will demonstrate the impact of your work more than any highly spun letter or brochure. Next slide, please. You're probably looking at the first one and going, that's a bit odd. Always say thank you. I can guarantee in every batch of 30 grant that we give, 3 people will say the square root of nothing. Always say thank you. Maintain the relationship. That's really, in conversation with the funder, what do they want? I don't want 12-page 4-color PDFs every month. I really don't. But there are some things that you can send. Web links. Keep your website up to date. If you looked at my website now, in the bottom left-hand corner, you can see I updated it today. I update the update date, even if there's no update, if you can follow that. And it just shows that when you visit it, it contains the most contemporary information. Next slide, please. Yeah, don't apply to funders if your treasurer is desperately sitting on rainy day funds that he doesn't want to spend. Because for this trust, we do a pretty thorough scrutiny of your accounts and your financial status. So if your treasurer is waiting for the hole in the roof, that's what ecclesiastical are there for. Sorry, Paul, but I think they are. Anyway, 360 Giving, an excellent website for fund data. Have a look at that. One of my tips is understand VAT if you're doing property schemes. I've given an example there about disabled lifting platforms. So many people come to me who want to put lifts in. If you're putting a lift in a church or a church building, it's not called a lift, upon which you will pay VAT. It's called a disabled lifting platform, which is 0 rated. And be aware of the listed places of worship scheme, because if you are listed, you get all your VAT back on any works, capital works within the church. Next slide, please. Right, we're going to go to questions and answers, and I picked up from the last that someone's going to read them out, and I'm going to put together an answer, hopefully.
That's wonderful, John. Thank you so much. To be honest, I cannot believe that you are the only full-time worker at Joseph Rank Trust. For the work that you do, it's incredible. And I'd like to say thank you for sparing some time to be with us today as well, because I certainly learnt so much from that, particularly about the correspondence. I think, you know, I've written so many letters, dear sir, stroke madam, to whom it may concern, and so on. I know exactly. And info at emails, yes, I know. But when you get an email or you see some sort of information pack and it says, you know, contact us at, your heart does sink actually, but you still do it. So thank you, John, for making us aware that we really do need to do our research and, you know, connect and engage with a real person. So that's wonderful. Thank you. We do have a couple of questions for you, if that's okay. My computer has just decided that it's going to lose power at the at that moment. So lovely Anne has written up a question.
While you're getting your piece of paper, there's a couple of questions that have come up on the chat, which I can deal with straight away.
If you could, John, that would be ideal. Thank you.
Someone's talked about capital VAT, including churchyards. That is a question for the listed places worship scheme. Very hopeful government agency based in Glasgow. Give them a ring. Someone's talked about reserves and sustainability. Naturally, you've got or should have a reserves policy. I'm talking of funds in excess of your reserves policy that is undesignated or unrestricted, that your church treasurer or treasurer will not release. I hope, Paul, that answers your question. Back to you for the question, sorry.
Yeah, thank you so much, John. Expertly answered there. And the one that we have here is, if we apply for funding, I think it's from Margaret. Hi, Margaret. If we apply for funding for a youth worker across a deanery, then would that be better than applying from each individual benefice or cluster for that same youth worker?
For us, it would be, yes. You know, we do get applications routinely and regularly from benefice teams where the worker, for example, could be working across 4 or 5 individual churches. You know what? I think one church needs to take responsibility and be the lead applicant on behalf of the others, unless, of course, the benefice team itself has charitable status, which most don't actually. So, you know, if you're in a group of churches within a benefice, you want a worker, someone's got to take responsibility and apply on behalf of the other churches who would be benefiting from that worker's input.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. And yeah, Margaret, I hope that answers your question. We also, thank you very much. Right. Alison says, thanks, Anne. Alison says, can CICs apply? Community interest companies apply?
They cannot. I'm afraid CICs are not registered charities. CIOs are. A CIC does not have charitable status with the Charity Commission of England and Wales. So for this trust, the answer is no. I'm sorry.
Okay, no worries. Thank you very much. Good question, though, Alison. Thank you. And I'm not sure there's any more questions at the moment, John, but thank you, because Margaret says, thank you. The hints and tips are very, very helpful. So far this morning has been, or seen opportunities for projects, so positive. So thank you very much, John, and also for the work that you do. And all those incredibly helpful hints and tips as well. Really appreciate your time. And, you know, I know that you are probably going to be inundated with emails now, which is wonderful. And that's what it's all about. So thank you so much for your time.
If I could just finish, for those who are not going to risk coming to my workshop or haven't got the time this afternoon, if in any doubt for this trust, before you go into that painful experience of pulling everything together and writing the application, if you're not sure, like the CIC point is a good example, or what level of unrestricted reserves is excessive, if that's the right word, just ask me, pick the phone up, leave a message if I'm not there, because I spend probably 4 days a week traveling, but I do pick up messages that I travel around, and I will come back to you with a very clear answer. But I wish you all well with your mission and your vision, and hopefully at some point, you know, I'm visiting a project tomorrow just outside of Hale, a wonderful Methodist church at Gwitham. It's thatched It's brilliant. So if you're looking for a day retreat, it's the ideal place for you. And then I'm going to Old Quay Church in Truro, which is just to have an outdoor lavatory and kitchenette fitted. It's a wonderful spot if you're, again, looking for a day retreat or an away day in Truro. And that's just two easy examples of what we've recently done in your county.
Well, honestly, it sounds amazing. Thank you so much. And, you know, we look forward to welcoming you to Hale and to Truro as well. Thank you very much, John. Wonderful stuff. Can I just ask you ever so quickly, do you ever get a minute to put your feet up?
Yes, yes. I will be spending 6 hours traveling to Hale this afternoon, so that is my feet up time.
Lovely. Well, enjoy every minute of it. And thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you. Wonderful. There we are, Dr. John Hicks, who is the Secretary of the Joseph Rank Trust. Brilliant stuff. Well, I hope that you've enjoyed so far this morning. Thank you for all the comments and the questions. We will be going back and going through, making sure that we answer all of the questions by the end of today. We're planning to finish around about 1 o'clock today, so do get all your questions in, comments, you know, use every moment of this opportunity. We're going to take a bit of a quick break now. So if you want to have a cup of your tea or coffee and a biscuit as well, that would be lovely. And we're hoping to meet back at 1:45. So we're pretty much bang on time. Thank you very much. And thanks to all of our guests so far. When we return from the break, we will be joined by Jenny Fish, who is from the National Lottery Community Fund. So very much looking forward to having Jenny with us. So see you in a moment or two. Hello and welcome back to Meet the Funders, coming live from St Martin's Church in Lisgard. It's absolutely beautiful church. If you haven't been here, do come and have a visit. It's right in the centre of Lisgard, but it's this great oasis and haven of peace. Amazing. And we really feel the power of the Holy Spirit, you know, really motivating us and working through us all to change our communities for the better. So it's brilliant. Thank you so much for being with us today, and thank you for your level of commitment to working in your community as well, right across Cornwall. You know, it's amazing what is happening through that power of the Holy Spirit as well. But as we said at the beginning, you know, your project doesn't have to be faith-based to apply for funding, because it's all about changing communities and having that positive effect and meeting people where they are with their need, helping support vulnerable people and changing our communities for the better. And we've heard from some brilliant speakers already this morning, which is fantastic. And we've got another speaker coming up now, a wonderful lady called Jenny Fish, who is from the National Lottery Community Fund as well. And of course, they give out millions of pounds, don't they? So a great opportunity to hear what Jenny is saying in a moment or two. And now, do you know, isn't it funny? I've got the whole programme in front of me and I still can't follow it. So I think it is now time in a moment, because Jenny isn't quite with us at the moment. So Jenny will be with us in a moment or two, I'm sure, once we can get all our technicals sorted out. So it gives us a bit of time, though, to have a look at some of the questions coming in. In fact, John Hicks from the Joseph Rank Trust was talking about visiting Old Quay Church in Truro. He's coming down later today to Hale, and then he's going to Old Quay. And lots of comments about Old Quay. Michael Griffiths, hi Michael, says Old Quay is amazing. And Gwithian, he was mentioning the church at Gwithian, the old thatched church there. Thank you so much. Apparently, that was a Meet the Funders came from a Meet the Funders attendee a couple of years ago. So that really is amazing to see that project and the results of that meeting. So again, and that makes me realise that today is just the beginning. Because the fact that you're here, the fact that you've signed up for Meet the Funders and you're giving over your commitment, today is the first step. because there are all manner of community workshops as well planned through Transformation Cornwall and the Diocese of Truro and the Benefact Trust. So do keep having a look at your programme, keep looking at our Transformation Cornwall website as well, because there are all those dates for the small community workshops as well. So really this is just the first step to a great journey, I'm sure. So now Jenny Fish is with us. I'm really pleased to say good afternoon, Jenny. It's really lovely to have you with us. It really is. And Jenny is a funding officer for Devon and Cornwall for the National Lotteries Community Fund. So Jenny, thanks for being with us. Looking forward to hearing your presentation.
Thank you very much. No problem. And thanks very much for having me. I'm here actually with a colleague of mine, Jodie Bray. So as the host has mentioned, I'm Jenny Fish. I'm your lead funding officer for the National Lottery Community Fund. I've been at the fund for coming up for 9 years now. And I'm leading in Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly. As it's such a big county, we've got several staff that work across the county, and hopefully some of you will get to meet Jodie, who will be delivering a workshop later on today on behalf of the fund. And that will be really the opportunity to, hear more about what we've got available in terms of funding programmes, what funding opportunities are out there. And the workshop will also include some really good hints and tips, very similar to what you've heard today. Now, I can't see my presentation, so I'm not quite sure what's happening there. So I'm just waiting, it's loaded up. So thank you very much for that. But the reason I'm here in the morning and Jodie's doing a workshop later on is because I want the morning and my presentation really to focus on something that's really, really important, and something that I wanted to bring to your attention, and that's the fact that the National Lottery Community Fund has just started a process of a new strategy renewal called Putting Communities First, and we're in the phase 1, the engagement survey, and it was really important for me really to come along and share this with everybody in the event today, because when I say it's important, it is important because it's your opportunity to start to help the fund work out what it should be doing with its not just millions of pounds, but the billions of pounds we've distributed. I had a look at our stats the other day, and in the last 6 years since we did our last strategy renewal, we've distributed as a funder across the UK 3.4 billion in grants. Interestingly, 82% of those are small grants. That's amounts of up to £10,000. But it's been 5 years since our last renewal. We've got a new Chief Executive Officer who you'll see very shortly in a film we're going to share about the renewal. We've got a new chair of our board, and they're really, really keen to hear from communities about what you've got to say we should be focusing on and where our funding should go in future. So I hope you enjoy this short film.
$72,000 project, at least one in nearly every neighbourhood, putting communities first in all that we do. I'm delighted to start a conversation. The Lottery Community Fund can best support communities to prosper and thrive. We want your ideas to help us better understand those challenges, hopes, the opportunities in communities. I'm thrilled to be in Stoke-on-Trent today. It's inspiring to see firsthand the difference local projects like these make. The energy, hope and promise in what is possible when people and communities come together.
We help with schoolwork, detentions, behaviour, mental health. If we can say that we've given them opportunities that they wouldn't have had if they didn't come to us, then that is a success.
We support Black and ethnic minority women. We provide them confidence building lessons and health and well-being programs.
It's meeting people, getting out in the fresh air, exercise again that I would never normally be able to do.
The enjoyment of being outside, being mobile, she thrives on it.
It's given me that purpose in life. It's definitely made me feel happier and brighter. This place can offer such a variety of support. It does mean the world to everyone. It is just a really nice, safe, comfortable place for the community.
You can have a house full of people and you can still feel lonely. No, but coming here, I've made friends for life.
We want to build on the best that's been with the best that's yet to come. And we need your ideas. How can we best unlock and unleash the potential in our communities? As a community funder, where can we make the most difference? And with limited resource, what should we focus on? What are you seeing about how we should work and partner together on the issues that really matter?
Having the National Lottery funding has meant that we've been able to become an actual organisation.
Having this funding has enabled me to be able to actually go out and support these families.
It improves their mental health and their confidence.
It's the lifeblood of the organisation and the rewards are great.
Every day, we are humbled and privileged to see what communities achieve. We look ahead with ambition and hope. We're ready to go. So this is my ask to you. Please join us in this conversation to shape our future together.
Thank you. And if we can go back to the presentation, that would be perfect. So I hope what you've seen in that film has given you a little bit of a flavour of not only the work that we've been, doing over the past 6 years, what that £3.4 billion has sort of helped initiate in terms of helping people to sort of prosper in everyday life. But the strategic renewal is a process to say, are we getting it right as a funder? So whilst we will be talking, in Jodie's workshop about what our funding programs are looking like now, the strategy renewal process is sort of working with you guys to say, have we got it right? Are the priorities of our current funding programs the right priorities? Do they meet what your organisations and the people in your communities that you work with, are right for them? So what it will inform is our direction of travel for the next 10 years. So it's really, really critical that you get involved. And I'll walk you through a timeline in a minute. There are several critical things. We did a piece of customer research and I'll post a link to it in the chats, when we come to the questions, which, our current priorities being that focusing on the early action, the activities that, I guess if you frame it as the picket fence at the top of a cliff, rather than the ambulance dealing with the problems once you're at the bottom of the cliff. But our research is showing that communities have been hammered over the past couple of years. They're taking steps, they're recovering from a pandemic, they've got to navigate the opportunities and all of the challenges such as cost of living and all the other things that communities are facing, the challenges ahead. We never predicted a pandemic. We'd want to future-proof, what we're doing and be very purposeful about it. Our community research I referred to, showed a significant difference in people's perceptions of the quality of life, the life opportunities open to them, what their job and employment prospects were, and how health and well-being was impacting on them depending on where they lived or what social class or background they came from, their educational background and local deprivation and ethnicity. So, this strategic renewal process, which I hope you will take time after day to think about, is so important because it will help us as, one of the largest community funders in the UK to understand where we can make the most difference, and what you feel as a funder we should be focusing on, and what our priorities should be sort of over the next 10 years. And again, how you see us working. You've met me as the lead officer, you'll meet Jodie today. Our roles are very much working with applicants or coming out and doing events and sharing our funding and top tips, but we also grant manage. But, you know, are we getting it right? So the things that we could be doing better that would help you, you know, become more confident and supported to deliver the great work that you do. So that is the purpose. Timelines, sorry, it's flicking through a little bit quicker. It's my Wi-Fi here on the border of Cornwall and Devon. So we've started preparing for the strategy renewal back in January of this year, and we brought staff from across the fund, from all the different countries, England, Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales and UK, staff that work internally, and with the help of Nesta, who are another funder, and we are in the phase now, phase 1 discovery, of working to gather as much insight and generate your ideas of what we could be doing between now and July. We had a survey, it's been heavily promoted. It closed last Friday. I hope those of you that have the link had your voice and you put your input in there. But that isn't the only phase of the strategy that you can have your say. I'd like to flag that in July we'll be having an event face-to-face in Taunton. Well, we will be inviting from across the Southwest representatives from helper agencies, so Transformation Cornwall have been invited to come along, and we're encouraging those helper agencies to speak to their members to bring what you feel should change to the table so they can represent your views as well as their own infrastructure needs. We've also invited organisations that support those working and working with people that come from a background, you know, of being disabled, people of colour, from the LGBTQ community, from the learning disabled community, because they tend to be those organisations that are very small, and we hear less from them in terms of what they would like our funding to do. And as you can see, phase 3, December through to March, the fund then will start developing a plan for what communities are saying we need to change to deliver the strategy and achieve the impact that you say, you know, supporting communities will help you thrive. And again, we will start to launch from April 23 onwards, more information about what communities have told us to date. And throughout every stage, there will be various ways to get involved. So the survey is closed. We've been told that there'll be more opportunities for you to feed in as we start to share more about what we're hearing from communities. But we want to hear from you. We want to hear bold ideas. You know, somebody's asked about our range of grants. Well, they range from £300 up to multi-million pound investments. If you look at what we've done in Cornwall, from lots of strategic partnership investments. I don't know whether any of you here today have heard of our Building Better Opportunities investments. That's multi-million pounds with European funding and funding from the Department for Work and Pensions on skills and work. We've had Head Start, our investment into young people's mental health with Cornwall Council. But as I said, out of that 3.4 billion, 82% of that has been out in small grants ranging from £350 up to £10,000 for activities supporting over a year. But, you know, some of the ideas that people have shared is, should we be you know, having a small grant, a medium grant, and then our larger grant scheme, it's all up for grabs. What do you feel? Have you tried to apply to our larger grant scheme, which is reaching communities, and struggle? Should we have a fund that steps up from our small grants programme to a slightly medium-sized grant for a couple of years before then looking at that larger reaching communities grant, which is our other product along with Awardshall in England that's open at the moment? Your input is really valuable, and I will share the slides so you can have a think about, you know, what the fund is doing and what we're asking you to think about and share with us. But even though the most up-to-date survey is just closed, we do have a website with a microsite there. I'm sorry, the slides appear to have gone from my screen. I'm doing really badly at tech here, but if we can bring the slides back up and go to the final slide, there is an email address where you can email your thoughts about what the community fund should be focusing on. Thanks very much. So you can see here, putting communities first. Sorry, it's not very snappy. Definitely not info at, which I think John will be pleased with. But email putting communities first at tnlcommunityfund.org.uk and let us know what we're getting right, but equally what we could do better, what will meet the needs of your community. Should we be doing crisis work and not just that preventative work as the climate and the economic climate has changed? The pandemic and the impact of that is still with us. You can visit our microsite, puttingcommunitiesfirst.org.uk. You can follow the hashtag TNLCF strategy renew, have your say if you're into social media, or again, sign up to our newsletters. So a bit of a different presentation today, because you'll be looking at a workshop this afternoon, looking at what you can apply for now. This is your opportunity to shape what you could be applying for in the future. And thank you very much for having me along and putting up with the tech.
Thank you so much for a really, really informative presentation. Amazing. And it's just made me realise there is this huge pot of money that really you need to connect with, because people like Jenny at the incredible National Lottery Community Fund is there with this money. And in fact, Jenny, we've got some questions because Barbara in Stoke Climsland says, what is the financial range of grants made available? I think you answered this, but could you just let us know again, please?
Yeah, we've got our small grants fund, which I think will be familiar. It's our most popular, which is National Lottery Awards for All, and that funds activities for up to 12 months from £300 up to a maximum of £10,000. It can match fund other grant pots, so your costs might be higher. So flexible. You know, Jodie will talk about the key priorities, and there will be her slides available if you can't get there, which talks about our priorities. But I think that's the important thing about the strategy renewal. We will fund charities, constituted community groups, community interest groups, schools, councils, parish and town. You know, we don't fund individuals. We don't fund you know, higher tier local authorities, so unitary authorities. So again, you know, is that right? Should we be funding activities for, you know, where individuals can apply? Are the groups that feel they're getting less of our money that would like to see more going their way? So again, we've got our Reaching Communities programme. That's for £10,000 plus. There's no upper limit, but the average award in Cornwall and across the South West region for that programme was around about £180,000 for 3-year funding, but you can apply for up to 5 years. Again, is that long enough? Should we be offering grants over longer periods if there's, you know, instability there? the strategy renewal process is for your communities and your organisations to think, have we got it right? What could we do better? What could we change that would have the most impact?
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much. So it is that journey, isn't it? That process. And in fact, Kath Collier, hello Kath, says, will the current grants close ahead of the new strategy launch?
No, the plan is to keep awards to all in reaching communities and all our grant programmes, because, you know, we've got the Climate Action Fund, that's a separate grant strand, so we don't just have our open funding programmes in England, we've got our UK portfolio. They often come up with grants, they've had leaders with lived experience, so investing in leaders that have come from a background of experience of inequality and challenges, and want to apply that in the work that they do and the project ideas that they've got. You know, there are different parts of the fund. We are very big, but you know, we've got the big advice team who are fantastic. It's a team of funding officers who are available 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, who are experienced in all of our programmes, not just those open to groups in England, but all the other ones like Climate Action and the UK portfolio. Because to be honest with you, Cornwall and Isles Scilly is a huge county. There is only Jodie and I. You know, we get lots and lots of applications, so we can't be at the end of a phone every time. So our big advice team can steer you to the right programme if you've got any queries and we're not available. And again, if it needs that bit of local help, they'll steer you or your organisation to myself or Jodie.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. So really, I know you put all the means of correspondence up on the screen, and you can have those slides after this. But what would be, if there's somebody sitting there now thinking, I just want a little bit of advice to see if my project is okay to submit for funding, what's the first thing they do?
Well, it's a little bit like, you know, I don't want to sound repetitive, but I think the other speakers have probably said it really, really well. Take a look at, you know, we have got a website. We can provide information in different formats if you're struggling with the website. So that would be pick up the phone, and that would be to the big advice team on 0345. I'm just going to scroll down. It's been a while since I've looked at that number. 0345 10 20 30. I'll pop it in the chat. Have a chat with a member of them. That they'll be on the phone. They'll come back to you if they're busy. There's an answering machine service. There's a text relay number 18001 034 54 10 20 30. Have a look at our website to have a look at, you know, the programmes. We've made the website a lot easier. It's a few clicks to get to what you want. So depending on what country you're operating in, click England, Scotland, Ireland, UK or Northern Ireland, or England wide. It will then take you through to the open funding programmes and read what we're looking to do with those. I would have to say we're a very broad funder. There's not a lot we can't fund, but, you know, competition, I'm afraid, as with, you know, probably lots of other funders, you know, is pretty intense. There's a very vibrant community sector in Cornwall. So we do get a high volume of applications, particularly to our larger programme reaching communities. It's very popular because it's multi-year funding and larger amounts. And of course, we've got a capital strand for capital projects. Sadly, at the moment, we're turning around about 4 in 5 of all the really good ideas. So I would say, if you're looking at reaching communities in particular, have a good look at it, research what else we're funding in the county, and then have a chat with the big advice team, and they'll give you a steer.
Did you just say you're funding 4 out of 5 pretty much on average?
No, we're turning away.
Oh,
4 out
turning
of
away. I was going to
5.
say that is quite huge, isn't it? Yeah. Okay.
It'd be
So you
lovely if
really,
we were.
yeah, that's really good advice though. You have to make a really good application, don't you? And really put a lot of thought into it.
Well, you have to have a good rounded idea. You know, the last strategy we really listened, and we have a more conversational approach to our larger grant making. Unfortunately, our small grant making, you know, we're giving decisions out in 8 weeks. It's a lot more, you know, application form, you know, fast paced, but with reaching communities, which is a really important funding stream for communities, which is why I sort of raise that potential of maybe a step between the two programs. But, you know, for people that sometimes do brilliant things but struggle to get it down in writing, we can look at different ways of working with groups and support them through that application process. But again, you know, I want to flag, you know, it is tricky. You know, we get so many fantastic projects, but we just cannot fund all of the ones that do apply to us, sadly.
Sure, absolutely. But, you know, you don't get if you don't try. So that's the thing, isn't it? Absolutely. And just, I know we're running slightly over time, but Charlotte says, can you tell us more about some smaller projects in Cornwall that you funded, please?
Well, we just did a great one down in Helston, working with Cornwall Rural Community Charity, because we picked up, we weren't getting a lot of applications to any of our programmes from community groups across there. And there we did a pitchy project. So that's about applying a different way. So they gave us a basic outline, but then they were able to come and talk to an audience about what their plans were. And they're, crikey, from funding a bird's nest swing in Helston Park with South Carrier Alliance to funding, I think they originally wanted £400 to purchase a brand new reindeer light for Mullion's Christmas Lights Community Parade. We actually felt they'd never applied to us before. We'd go one step further and help them with the costs of all of their activities this year. So the purchase of the Christmas trees and extra light bulbs and all those important things that help a great event like that get across the ground, to a really interesting bit of work with the Childhood Sailing Trust, who are a massive organisation but have never applied to us before. They've probably never needed to. And that was working with them to create an outdoor wellbeing space at one of the lakes where they're based in Helston, not only for them to use for their therapeutic wellbeing courses for children and young people, but also to enhance the space so that other groups could come in and use that quiet circle, particularly with COVID and people maybe being anxious about meeting indoors at their site. So from marquees for Mullion Horticultural Association to a brand new beach dolly for a local gig rowing club. You know, we got around about 67 grand just working a different way out across the Lizard only a couple of months ago.
Wow, that's amazing. A huge variety of projects there, you know, some big, some small, amazing. Jenny, thank you so much. We'd just like Chantal, hi Chantal, would like your email address or the best email address to contact. So I don't know whether you'd rather put that in the chat
Yeah,
box.
I mean, yeah, I would start off and I'll put it in the chat with contacting the Southwest Regional Hub. But in a minute, I'll get onto the chat when I'm no longer needed, and I'll put the link to the research. I'll put the telephone numbers down for our Big Advice team, their email address, and also the Southwest Regional Hub.
Brilliant. Jenny, thank you so much for joining us. Really inspiring and encouraging. And, you know, yeah, have a go, because there are small grants, there are multi-million grants as well.
But
so
importantly, have to say about what we should be doing in future. That's what we really, really implore everybody sat in this meeting today, and hopefully by sharing the slides, because if you don't tell us, it won't happen. So have a think about what you think we could do better, and you know, join the conversation. We'd really appreciate it.
That's what it's all about. Jenny, thank you very much. I hope you have a lovely afternoon. Thank you. Yeah, as Jenny said, that's it, because don't just sit at home and think, oh, I've got this great idea. I know it can make a big difference. You know, I'd like to do this or that. And then it just gets shelved, and then life gets in the way. You know, really, you can do great things if you just speak to all our amazing funders. And in fact, in the book here, there are other we've got over today and tomorrow around about 8 speakers funding organisations. But if you have a look at the programme, it is full of funders. So all the contact details there as well, phone numbers, websites, everything you need. So just don't sit at home and think, I'll do it tomorrow. Do it now, because it's brilliant and it will make a massive difference to so many. So thank you. And as Jenny was saying, the National Lottery Community Fund gives out grants from £300 to multi-million pounds. It's amazing, isn't it? There has to be something in there for you. Right, now, I think we're running slightly over time, but Daniel, wonderful Daniel, is here to tell us all about the workshops. So thanks, Daniel.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. If you remember when you booked on to come to this programme, you would have been asked to select a workshop option. If you have logged on with the same email address that you registered with, then you'll be automatically, in a few moments, taken through to a breakout room where you can join that workshop. If you've logged in with a different email address for any reason, or if the system's got itself a little bit confused, in a few moments, you're going to see a little pop-up that's going to ask you what workshop you would like to join. Whatever device you're on, it's quite simple. Just make a choice. You can listen to the National Lottery, you can go to the Joseph Frank Trust workshop, and so on. If you want a little bit of information about how these are going to work, it's slightly different to this call because in the workshop breakout rooms, it's smaller calls where you're all going to be able to see each other, you can unmute yourself to speak, and this is going to be a really good opportunity just to make connections with each other and with the individual funders. We'll be in those sessions for a little bit of time, and then you'll get a little message telling you that the room is closing, and we'll come back to the main session to close off today. If for any reason you have any problems, just give me a shout in the chat, and I can do my best to put you in the room that you want to be. Thank you.
Okay, Daniel, thank you very much. So hopefully that's all good for you, and you get little messages on your screens, and I look forward very much to seeing you in around about half an hour. Thank you. Martin's in Liskeard. I hope you found your individual workshops really fruitful and beneficial and encouraging to you as well. I'm sure it was a great opportunity to actually connect and ask your own questions in your own time to our funding experts, which is brilliant. I really hope that you found it inspiring and encouraging too this morning, as you've learned I've learned so much about contacting people and how we really do need to actually take that first step to making our projects come to life and make such a massive difference. So thank you very much to all our experts as well for their invaluable advice this morning. Absolutely brilliant. In a moment or two, I will ask our wonderful new project manager, Anne Redling-Hayes, to come up and talk about the next steps really, because as I said, it's not all about today. Today is that first step on our journey. This is the first of a year-long series of workshops and groups, but whatever time of day, whenever, you know you can contact us and the diocese, and we'll put all our contacts up. So if you need some extra support or advice, then you know that we're here. So I'm just going to hand over to Anne now, who will talk to us about the next steps.
Thank you, Donna. The room is full of ideas, full of goodwill, full of community spirit, and I'm so inspired by every one of you that's here today in the room. So next steps, what happens after this? Transformation Cornwall, the main event that we have every year is this Meet the Funders, which is today and tomorrow. And if you have signed up only for today and you're not here tomorrow, let's go through what is the next steps. So we have community workshops going on over the next 6 months. And the first one will be on Thursday, the 16th of June. So what will happen when you have registered for the Meet the Funders event, there was an option that you could opt in for the newsletter and communication from us. If you did take that option and you ticked it and you said, yes, please add me to your mailing list, you will receive notification about the workshops that's going to happen. So if you have not opted in, it would be good to go on our website and sign up for our newsletter. We will send out an email before every workshop that you are aware of what we're doing. We can just go through the headings of the workshops. In June, 16th of June, so that's not too far off, our first workshop for this year will be vision setting and project planning. So there you're going to find out why a vision is vital in a project if this is your first time. You discover the project planning techniques and the importance of vision setting to help you to successful, not only manage your project, but also to apply for funding. And then there are other workshops after that. The one after that is Thursday, 14th of July. How can your local supermarket help you? We'll get a local supermarket in to come and explain to us if you give food access or have a community kitchen. Or just it's always good to have a community around food to come and chat to us about that. But more about this will be in our newsletters and the emails that we send out. And it's so great to know all of you are here for a reason. It's good to ask yourself the question, why? Why are you here? Why is the funders here? Why are you here in this room today? It's because of the passion and the vision you have to inspire communities and bring a community spirit along so that we have flourishing communities in Cornwall. And thank you for that. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Donna.
And thank you very much indeed. That's wonderful. Right, in a moment we'll close with a short prayer. And if you have your programme with you, on the final page is a prayer for your project journey. So it would be lovely if we could all actually say that together as well, if you would like to do that. But as Anne was saying, there are so many different community workshops and so many ways to get involved. So don't ever feel as though you're on your own. I know that it's the most used phrase apparently in the Bible. Do not be afraid. So do not be afraid of taking that first step. You're never alone. We're all here together. And the more that we can do together, the more interconnected we are. And the more we acknowledge and realise that, the bigger the strides and the progress we can all make. So thank you so much for being with us today. I would just like to then close in prayer. And if you have it, it would be wonderful if we could all say it together. It is a prayer for your project journey. For each step that I might take, be my guide, O Lord of life. For each load that I might bear, be my strength, O Lord of life. For each mountain I might face, be my power, O Lord of life. For each river that might impede, be my safety, O Lord of life. For each place where I might rest, be my peace, O Lord of life. For each sunrise and sunset, be my joy, O Lord of life. Amen. Thank you very much for that. And I'd just like to say thank you to you for being with us today and for all that you do in your lives and in your communities as well. Also, very grateful thanks to the Benefact Trust, Cornwall Community Foundation, to the Joseph Rank Trust and to the National Lottery Community Fund. And Paul Playford, we've got Dr. John Hicks. We had some wonderful advice, didn't we, from all of our incredible experts. Jenny Fish as well. Yeah, thank you so much. And Colin Taylor, of course, from CCF. So grateful thanks for all your time. And don't forget that tomorrow, the Bishop of St Germans, Right Reverend Hugh Nelson, will be along to host. And the programme tomorrow is another wonderful one. We have National Churches Trust, Garfield Weston, Cornwall Historic Churches Trust, as well, and the Asda Community Foundation. So we hope very much that you'll be able to join us again tomorrow. But whatever you're doing, thank you for being with us. Thank you for what you're doing in your communities. And may this be the first step in a wonderful, new, encouraging, inspiring journey which will transform lives. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful afternoon. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.